Let me ask you a question. Have you ever walked away from someone, finally took a stand, maybe even blocked them, and then started wondering, what are they saying about me now? I'm here to tell you something that is going to stop you in your tracks, because there is ONE thing a narcissist will always, always do in your absence. And once you understand this, it changes everything. This isn't just psychology. This is about power, your power, and how to take it back from the people who manipulate, distort, and deceive, especially when you're not even in the room. Today, we're not just going to talk about narcissism. We're going to expose the pattern. We're going to shine a light on the truth. And more importantly, I'm going to show you how to stop letting people who are not even present control your peace. You walk away from the narcissist thinking it's over. You breathe. You start to heal. And what happens next? They don't sit with themselves and reflect. They don't grow. They don't take accountability. No, they start rewriting the entire story. And guess who's suddenly the villain? You. The moment you're out of sight, they get to work, not on themselves, but on the narrative. They take the trend, twist it, flip it upside down, and retell it in a way that makes them the poor, innocent victim. They tell people you were cold, you were unstable, that you abandoned them. You were the narcissist. It's like emotional identity theft. They don't just lie. They replace the facts with a whole new version of reality. And the scary part, some people believe them. Why? Because narcissists are charming, persuasive, master storytellers. They know how to cry on cue, how to act wounded, how to sprinkle in just enough truth to make the lie sound real. They use your moments of vulnerability against you. That one time you lost your temper, that one mistake you made. They frame it like it defines you, and they leave out everything they did to push you there. They do this because their greatest fear is exposure. If people start seeing through the mask, they lose control. So when you're no longer there to serve their ego, they make sure you're still serving a purpose. By becoming the scapegoat, you become the reason for everything that went wrong in their life. The failed relationship, your fault. Their emotional instability, you triggered it. Their loneliness, you abandoned them. And let's be real, it hurts. It hurts to know that someone you cared about is out there dragging your name through the mud while playing the hero in their version of events. It's even worse when mutual friends, family members, or coworkers start pulling away because they're hearing a version of you that doesn't even exist. But here's the key. This isn't about you. It never was. It's about control. Rewriting the story is their way of reclaiming power. If they can't manipulate you directly anymore, they'll manipulate how others see you. That way, they still win. That way, they're still relevant. It's a performance, and the audience is anyone willing to listen. And then make no mistake, they've rehearsed this. They've done it before. It's not a spontaneous reaction to heartbreak. It's a calculated pattern. They need to be seen as the one who was wronged. Because if they're the victim, then they never have to change. If they're the victim, they get sympathy, attention, a clean slate. The worst part, sometimes they actually start believing their own lies. Narcissists don't just fool others. They fool themselves. They have to. Because facing the truth means confronting their own emptiness, their own guilt. And they will do everything they can to avoid that mirror. So while you're out here doing the hard work, growing, healing, setting boundaries, they're busy selling a story where they're the wounded hero and you're the villain that walked away for no reason. It's not fair. It's not right, but it's predictable. And the moment you understand that this is what they always do, you stop taking it personally. You stop chasing their version of the story. You let them have their fiction while you keep living in truth. You think because you're gone, the story ends. That cutting off contact means peace. But with a narcissist, silence doesn't mean stillness. It means strategy. The moment you're out of the picture, they get loud, not to you, but to everyone around you. It's not about healing. It's about control. And they control the narrative by smearing your name like it's their full-time job. They start small, subtle comments, passive, aggressive digs. I don't know what happened. They just then chained. It's sad, really. I tried so hard to make it work. It sounds innocent, harmless, even, but those little jabs are landmines designed to shape how others see you before you even get a chance to speak for yourself. They're laying the groundwork. They're poisoning the well. Because if they can control how others perceive you, they get to keep the upper hand. It's not about truth. It's about perception. And perception to a narcissist is everything. They don't care if it's real. They care if it looks good. And to them, good means you're the problem and they're the one who put up with you for as long as they could. They'll exaggerate everything you ever did wrong and minimize, deny, or flat out erase everything they did. And they'll do it with just enough charisma, just enough tears, just enough humility to make people believe they're just processing the pain. But it's not pain. It's propaganda. And the goal is to make you look unstable, dramatic, difficult. So when you finally react, when you finally speak up, you fit the role they've already assigned you in the story. It's manipulation. Deep, calculated, and strategic. They know that if they can isolate you, they win. If they can turn mutuals against you, they win. If they can make your family second guess you, they win. And if they can convince others that you are the toxic one, they don't just win. They get to keep playing the victim while you clean up the emotional mess. And what's even more disturbing, they don't do this because they're hurting. They do this because they're afraid. Afraid of losing power. Afraid that someone, anyone, might see through the mask. So they strike first. They rewrite the narrative while you're still catching your breath. They don't wait to be confronted. They get ahead of it. Because to them, controlling what's said about them is more important than facing what's true about them. You'll start noticing strange shifts. Friends who don't call you back. Family members who give you that look. People treating you differently, but not saying why. That's not an accident. That's the smear campaign doing exactly what it's designed to do. Isolate, discredit, destabilize. It's psychological warfare dressed up as heartbreak. And here's what really gets you. You're out here trying to heal. You're staying quiet, taking the high road, trying to move on. You don't want to gossip. You don't want drama. You want peace. But the narcissist counts on your silence. They weaponize it. Because while you're focused on healing, they're focused on spinning. They know if they control the story, they don't have to face consequences. They get to be the good one who tried everything. And when you finally try to set the record straight, you look like you're overreacting. It's not a fair fight. It never is. But the smear campaign, that's not about you. It's about the part of them that can't stand losing control and will do anything, say anything to make sure they don't. You think they'll need time to reflect, to feel the loss, to process what just happened, because that's what healthy people do, right? They sit with it. They grow from it. But a narcissist, the second you're gone, they're already lining up their next source of validation. It doesn't matter if the breakup was yesterday, last week, or this morning. They move fast because for them, it's not about connection. It's about supply, emotional supply, attention, praise, someone to chase them, someone to need them, someone to fill the silence you left behind. Because here's what they can't tolerating being alone with their own thoughts. When you're not there, they don't sit in the quiet and ask, what did I do wrong? They sit in the quiet and panic. Because without someone else to reflect back admiration or desire, they start to crumble. Their self-worth is like a balloon with a hole in it. It deflates the second no one's blowing air into it. So what do? They go hunting, and it's not subtle. They'll post cryptic stories, selfies with inspirational quotes. Suddenly they're so focused on self-love or back at the gym or out with real friends who actually support them. But all of that is bait. It's a performance, and the stage is social media. Because they're not trying to move on. They're trying to prove that they are the one. And if you're paying attention, it's jarring. You're over here dealing with real emotions, grief, anger, confusion, trying to process the whiplash of a relationship that left you drained and doubting yourself. Meanwhile, they're already talking to someone new or worse, parading them around like they've known them for years. It feels cruel. It feels fake. But more than anything, it feels fast. And it's meant to. Because the speed isn't about love. It's about replacement. Narcissists don't bond, they attach. And once that attachment stops serving them, they find a new one. Not to grow, not to connect, but to escape the reality that without an audience, they don't know who they are. The news supply becomes their distraction, their mirror, their emotional crutch. And let's be honest, that person has no idea what they're walking into. You might even feel tempted to warn the next person, to protect them from what you just went through. But here's the truth. The narcissist already got there first. They've already painted you as bitter, jealous, dramatic. So if you speak up, it just confirms the version of you they've already sold. That's part of the game. They know they're moving too fast. They want you to notice. They want you to look unhinged if you react. It's calculated. And the hardest part, it looks like they're doing better than you. That new person looks happy. They look smitten. They're posting pictures, going on trips, saying things you once said. It messes with your head. It makes you question everything. Was any of it real? Did they ever care? Were you just another placeholder? But here's what's really happening. It's not love. It's not healing. It's addiction. The narcissist is addicted to attention, addicted to the chase, addicted to the high of being desired. And the second that wears off, the cycle starts again. Because no matter how many new faces they find, they're still running from the same emptiness. They're not replacing you because you weren't enough. They're replacing you because they are never enough for themselves. You think cutting ties means cutting them off. You block the number. You mute their socials. You stop answering the messages. And for a while, it feels like silence. But then the weird stuff starts. A random old friend reaches out. Someone you barely talked to likes a post from months ago. Someone says, "Hey, I ran into so and so and they were asking about you." And suddenly it hits you. They're still watching, not directly, but they're watching. A narcissist doesn't just walk away and let go. Even if they're the one who left, they still need to know what you're doing, how you're coping, and more importantly, if you're still thinking about them. But here's the thing, they're not going to ask you directly. That would be too obvious, too exposed. So instead, they send others, friends, family, mutual contacts, people you thought were neutral who are suddenly not so neutral anymore. This is what's called flying monkeys, people they manipulate into doing their dirty work. These people usually don't even realize they're being used. They might think they're just checking in, trying to keep the peace. But in reality, they're delivering intel. Every conversation you have with them, every emotional reaction, every update you give, it's information that will make its way back to the narcissist. And that's exactly what they want. Because narcissists need data. They need confirmation that they still matter to you, that you're hurt, that you're obsessing, that you're not over it. They want to see if you've moved on, who you're with, how you're doing. And even if they don't speak to you directly, they'll find a way to get that information through people, through posts, through little cracks in your no contact wall. Social media becomes their favorite tool. They'll watch your stories through fake accounts. They'll stalk your posts without engaging. They'll get friends to screenshot your updates. Sometimes they'll even unblock you just for a moment to see if your page is still open. It's not curiosity. It's surveillance. Because if they can't control you anymore, they still want to monitor you. And it doesn't stop there. Sometimes they'll leave breadcrumbs, vague messages, indirect posts, songs, quotes, even public comments that are meant for you but addressed to no one. And if you react, they win. Because your attention, even your negative attention, is proof that they still have emotional influence over you. It's all about control. Silent control. They know they can't reach out looking desperate or exposed, so they do it through others. And if they can't use people, they'll use technology. Anything to maintain a connection without your consent. Because they don't miss you. They miss what you gave them: validation, power, access. You'll notice it in patterns. The sudden spike in views on your stories. The mutual friend who starts dropping their name. The weird coincidences that aren't coincidences. That's not the universe. That's surveillance with a smile. And if you bring it up, people will say you're being paranoid. That's the genius of it. It's just invisible enough to make you look crazy for noticing. But the truth is, narcissists never truly let go. Not because they love you, not because they're sorry, because they can't stand the idea of you living well without them. They want access without accountability. Insight without intimacy, power without presence. So while they pretend to have moved on, they're still circling, still watching, still trying to stay one step inside your life, even if it's through the eyes of someone else. You finally decide enough is enough. You go no contact. You block the number, unfollow the accounts, delete the photos. You're not being dramatic. You're protecting your peace. You're setting a boundary because every conversation with them leaves you drained, confused, or doubting your own memory. So you cut the cord. And for a moment, you feel strong, clear, like you're finally doing what you should have done a long time ago. But think they start testing, not always directly, not at first. They might send a wrong number text, a just checking in message on a random platform you forgot to block. Maybe they like an old photo. Maybe they send you a song or reach out on your birthday like nothing ever happened. Whatever the method, the goal is the same: to poke the boundary and see if it holds, to find out if the door is really shut or if they can still slip a foot inside. Because here's what a narcissist can't tolerate: being ignored. They don't process no contact like a normal person. To them, silence isn't closure. It's a challenge. It threatens their illusion of control. If they no longer have access to your thoughts, your attention, that's not just a loss. That's a wound to their ego. So they test constantly, quietly, creatively. They might not even mention the past. They might pretend like everything's fine, like the gaslighting, the emotional chaos, the lies never happened. They'll come in smiling, casual, polite. Hey, stranger, just saw something that reminded me of you. Hope you're doing well. And it sounds harmless, right? Almost sweet. But it's bait. It's a boundary test wrapped in nostalgia. Because if you respond, even just to say, please don't contact me, they got what they wanted. Proof that they still exist in your world. Proof that you're still emotionally engaged. They'll take that one word reply and spin it into a fantasy. They're still thinking about me. They're not over me. I could still come back if I wanted to. You think you're shutting the door, but they see it as a crack they can wedge open again. And if you don't respond, they escalate. Maybe they reach out to someone close to you. Maybe they make a fake profile. Maybe they stir up drama just to get your attention. If they can't get love, they'll settle for anger. If they can't charm you back, they'll provoke you instead. Because in their world, emotional reaction equals relevance. And the one thing they fear most, being irrelevant, you'll see it in patterns. The sudden apology, months too late, the late night message, the email out of nowhere, the emergency call that turns out to be nothing. They'll push just enough to stay in your head, but not so much that you can prove they're violating your space. They're not trying to reconnect. They're trying to interrupt your healing. Because every time you engage, you reset your own progress. You reopen the emotional wound. And they know that. The boundary isn't just physical. It's psychological. And testing it is how they stay tethered to your life. They want you to second guess yourself, to feel guilty, to feel cold. Because if they can break the boundary once, they can break it again. It's not about closure. It's about control. And when they test your limits, what they're really asking is, do I still have power over you? Every message, every like, every occidental run-in is just them knocking on a door they have no right to touch, hoping you're still vulnerable enough to answer. It's one of the most disorienting things you'll ever experience. You've finally walked away. You're in therapy. You're reading the books, listening to the podcasts, doing the hard work. You're sitting with your pain instead of running from it. You're starting to reclaim yourself, piece by piece. And just when you begin to feel some progress, you look up and there they are, doing the same thing, or at least pretending to. Suddenly, they're quoting Brené Brown, posting about trauma bonding, of talking about narcissism, as if they're not the walking definition of it. They're on a self-love journey, drinking green juice, going to yoga, journaling, maybe even throwing around words like accountability and growth. And you're left staring at your screen thinking, what is this? Because not long ago, this was the same person who weaponized your emotions and mocked your boundaries. Now they're acting like they invented healing. Here's the truth. Narcissists are master chameleons. They don't change. They adapt. And when they see that you're evolving, when they realize they're losing their grip, they don't respond with self-reflection. They respond with imitation. They don't want to do the actual work. They want to look like they're doing the work. It's performative. It's cosmetic. It's curated just enough to convince the outside world that they're changing, and maybe even to make you doubt your own growth. Because this version of them, the woke version, it's not for themselves. It's for their image. It's for their audience. And in many cases, it's for you. Because if they can make you believe, finally, seen the light, they think you might question the decision to leave. You might soften. You might reopen the conversation. And that's all they need. A crack in the door, a window of doubt, a moment of vulnerability they can exploit. And it works. Because you want to believe it. You want to believe people can change. You want to believe the person you loved is capable of growth. So when you see them doing the things you begged them to do, taking responsibility, going to therapy, talking about their past, it stings. It makes you question everything. Why now? Why not when it mattered? Why not when I was crying in front of them, begging to be heard? Because the truth is that version of them never existed. This healing version, it's borrowed. It's a costume. They watched you grow and they copied the script, but they skipped the part where you broke down. They skipped the nights you cried alone, the hours spent untangling the gaslighting, the courage it took to finally walk away. They're not doing the work. They're mimicking the outcome. And deep down, they're hoping you won't notice the difference. You'll start to see the cracks. The growth only lasts as long as the attention does. The quensite disappears when they're challenged. The healed version of them shows the same old patterns. The entitlement, the defensiveness, the need to dominate every conversation. because real healing isn't loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't demand applause. But narcissists don't heal to become better. They heal to stay relevant. So when they post about protecting their peace, after destroying yours, or talk about energetic alignment, after violating every boundary you ever tried to set, or claim they're finally learning to love themselves, after draining the love out of everyone around them, understand this, it's not growth, it's marketing. And the product they're selling is the idea that they were never the problem, because if they can look healed, they don't have to apologize. If they can sound wise, they don't have to change. And if they can convince others or you that they're finally doing the work, they get to rewrite the past without ever facing it.